The ocean did not give up its dead easily, but that day it almost seemed eager. Our sonar lit up something massive beneath the silt, something shaped too perfectly to be natural. When the camera descended, the darkness shifted, as if the sea itself was watching us trespass. I remember the moment the ship appeared on the monitor, its hull broken but not destroyed. It rested like a corpse that refused to decay, preserved by cold and silence. None of us spoke because something about it felt wrong in a way we couldn't explain. We had explored wrecks before, dozens of them, but this one felt different. The currents around it moved strangely, swirling in patterns that didn't follow any known tide. Even the equipment flickered, as though the ship was interfering with us. I was the first to notice the name etched faintly along the bow. Layers of corrosion tried to erase it, but something had preserved the letters beneath. When I read it aloud, my throat tightened, because it was my family name. No one laughed or questioned it, not even as I forced a smile. They assumed it was coincidence, a trick of erosion or imagination, but deep down I knew it wasn't either of those things. We sent the drone inside, guiding it through shattered corridors and collapsed beams. The interior was unnervingly intact, like time had slowed down just for this place. Shadows clung to corners where the camera light couldn't quite reach. Then we found it, lodged behind a fallen bulkhead in what must have been a private chamber. A safe, large and iron-bound, sat half-buried in sediment as though the ship had tried to hide it. Its surface was untouched by rust, gleaming faintly despite the decades underwater. The closer the camera moved, the colder the room seemed to feel, even through the screen. Frost-like patterns spread across the metal, impossible beneath the sea. Someone muttered that it looked like the safe was breathing. I leaned closer, heart pounding, and that's when I saw the engraving. It wasn't just a crest, it was my family's crest, every detail exact down to the smallest mark. My hands began to shake before I could stop them. A sudden distortion hit the feed, the image warping violently. For a split second, the safe appeared wet with something darker than seawater, something thicker. Then the screen cleared, and it looked normal again. No one mentioned what we all saw, but the silence became unbearable. Orders were given quickly, and we decided to bring it up. It felt less like a discovery, and more like we were stealing something that didn't belong to us. As the crane lifted the safe from the ocean floor, the cables groaned under its weight. The water around it churned violently, as if resisting its removal, and just before it broke the surface, I swear I heard something whisper my name from the depths. The key arrived before the safe even touched land, as if it had been waiting for that exact moment to find me. It came in a small wooden box wrapped in yellowed cloth, delivered without a return address or explanation. The courier claimed no memory of who sent it, only that it was long overdue. I almost didn't open it at first because the timing felt too precise. Something about it made my skin prickle before I even touched it, but curiosity has a way of overpowering fear. Inside the box lay a single rusted key, heavier than it looked. Its carvings were intricate and impossibly preserved. The moment I touched it, a chill spread through my body. I turned it slowly in my hand, studying every detail. The crest etched into it made my breath catch instantly. It was identical to the one on the safe. I didn't tell the team immediately, choosing instead to keep it to myself. Something about the connection felt too personal to share. It felt like the beginning of something I didn't understand. When I reached the dock, the air smelled wrong. It carried salt, but also something metallic and stale. The safe waited inside a brightly lit storage unit. Even under harsh light, it absorbed brightness rather than reflecting it. It seemed darker than it should have been. The closer I got, the heavier the key felt. One of the engineers mentioned the lock was unlike anything he had seen. His voice carried forced confidence. No one laughed at his attempt to ease the tension. I stepped forward without fully deciding to. The key in my hand felt like it belonged there. Everyone watched in silence. As I brought it close, the air shifted unnaturally. A faint hum filled the room. The safe seemed to respond. The key slid in perfectly without resistance. My hands trembled as I held it there. A whisper brushed against my ear. I turned, but no one stood near me. The others looked pale under the lights. One of them asked if I heard something. Before I could answer, a drop of water hit my hand. Then another followed. The safe creaked softly as if waking up. The whisper returned before the key turned. It felt like someone breathing just behind me. The silence afterward was unbearable. That night, I stayed behind alone. I couldn't leave the safe. It felt like it was calling me. The air grew colder with each passing hour. I could hear dripping, though nothing was wet. The sound echoed like deep water. The whispers returned, clearer this time. They overlapped in strange harmony. The words felt familiar and wrong. I moved closer to the safe. Its surface began to sweat. The liquid looked thick and dark. When I touched it, it smeared across my fingers. It felt warm, not cold. The metallic smell made me nauseous. The whispers turned into chanting. The sound filled my head. It drowned out my thoughts. Then the visions came violently. I saw a ship consumed by waves. People screamed as they drowned. The scene shifted suddenly. I stood among them. Their faces felt familiar. A figure stepped forward with a blade. They cut their palm without hesitation. Blood dripped into something unseen. One by one, the others followed. Their expressions were calm and resigned. It felt ritualistic. The chant became clear words. They repeated endlessly. The meaning settled deep inside me. I staggered back as the visions ended. The room returned suddenly. The safe stood silent. My hands were still coated in dark liquid. It refused to dry. My breathing wouldn't steady. The crest on the safe had changed. Its lines deepened unnaturally. A word formed slowly at its center. The safe opened before I touched it again. The lock clicked on its own. The door stood slightly ajar. I approached slowly, unable to resist. The silence pressed heavily around me. It felt like waiting. The door groaned as I pulled it open. Cold air rushed out. The smell was unbearable. Inside, everything was perfectly preserved. Papers and objects remained untouched. Time had been sealed away. I picked up a journal carefully. The leather felt warm. The first page was already marked. The writing described a doomed voyage. Storms rose without warning. The crew accepted their fate calmly. They had known long before sailing. The journal spoke of a secret meeting. My ancestors had gathered. They made a pact with something ancient. It lived beneath the ocean. It demanded blood. Each generation had to offer it. The ritual kept it asleep. The safe recorded the oath. Names filled the pages. Dates marked each ritual. Every entry ended in blood. The final entry felt different. The writing was frantic. It spoke of refusal. That generation broke the oath. They chose not to continue. The consequences came immediately. The ship sank violently. Something dragged it down. The entry ended abruptly. A wet sound came from behind me. I turned slowly. The safe's interior shifted. Darkness pooled unnaturally inside. It moved like liquid. Something pressed against it. A voice emerged from within. It felt ancient and distant. It whispered clearly. The words lingered after being spoken. They echoed endlessly. I couldn't escape them. I stumbled backward in panic. The lights flickered violently. The safe seemed closer. The temperature dropped rapidly. Frost spread across the floor. It moved with purpose. Water surged from beneath the safe. It spread across the room. The smell intensified. The ground shifted under my feet. It felt like a ship in a storm. The walls groaned loudly. The whispers returned in unison. They repeated the same phrase. The sound was overwhelming. I covered my ears helplessly. It made no difference. The voices were inside me. Shapes formed within the water. They grew clearer. Faces began to emerge. They were pale and hollow. Their mouths hung open. They looked like they were still drowning. I recognized them instantly. They were my ancestors. Their eyes accused me silently. One figure rose higher. Its features were clearer. It looked familiar from the journal. It spoke with a broken voice. The words felt heavy. They struck me deeply. The water surged violently again. Something moved beneath it. The surface bulged unnaturally. A deep sound filled the room. It was inhuman and ancient. It carried hunger. The voices stopped suddenly. A single presence remained. It focused on me. The realization came instantly. It felt undeniable. The debt was mine now. The presence waited patiently. It did not rush. It felt eternal. The water receded slightly. I could stand again. The faces watched silently. I moved toward the safe again. The journal remained open, the words looked darker. I searched for another solution. I flipped through pages desperately. Every entry showed the same fate. My phone rang suddenly. The sound felt foreign. It broke the tension. It was my sister calling. Her voice was filled with fear. She spoke of dreams. She described water and whispers. She sounded terrified. The connection began to distort. Her voice blended with the whispers. The message became clearer. It repeated endlessly. I dropped the phone in shock. The sound continued anyway. It echoed everywhere. The safe creaked behind me. Its darkness deepened. The presence moved closer. I understood everything then. The oath connected us all. Breaking it spread the cost. My gaze returned to the safe. It felt like a void. Something waited inside. I considered the options. Neither felt like a choice. Both led to horror. Continuing meant sacrifice. Refusing meant catastrophe. The weight crushed me. My hands trembled uncontrollably. I reached for the blade. It felt inevitable. The whispers fell silent again. The presence waited. It gave me time. I pressed the blade into my palm. Pain spread instantly. Blood began to fall. The safe reacted immediately. The room exhaled deeply. The water stilled. The faces began to fade slowly. Their expressions softened. Silence returned. Everything seemed calm again. The presence withdrew slightly. The pressure lifted. Then I heard one final whisper. It was soft but certain. It carried a promise. It did not sound like relief. It sounded like inevitability. It chilled me completely. The words echoed quietly in my mind. They settled deeply within me. They would never leave. Until the next, it said.